Greetings, everybody. Welcome to the Betterism Podcast. I am your host, Lachey Taylor. I have a wonderful guest today. Her name is Dr. Deyon Labash. She is a holistic practitioner. She's based out in Atlanta, Georgia, and she has a beautiful story. She has a background of nursing for over 20 years and then transitioned into becoming a board certified physician, and she helps people with their medical interventions through a more holistic approach. We'll get more into that. Every episode is always sponsored by A Game Herbal. A Game Herbal is my favorite herbal remedy to take when I am in need of some energy, when I need that extra boost, that mental clarity. So definitely go to agameherbal.com. You can use my discount code LTaylor15. And now to get to the show, I'm going to bring in Dr. Deyon. Hi, Dr.
Hello,
Deyon. How are
everybody.
you?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Lachey. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you for accepting the invitation. So I'm acquainted with you because we were all in the watermelon washout. And I know that you have also been a part of that experience. And I know you have you're still in it. As far as I know the last time I checked, you were like over 70 days of doing that. But before we get into that, I want to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself to the audience for people who may not know you. And tell us who Dr. Deyon Labash Turner is.
Okay, so my name is Dr. Deyon, and as Lachey said, I am board certified holistic practitioner now, a naturopathic doctor as well. I've been a nurse over 20 something years, and so I'm able to hone in on the Western medicine, and their modalities, and now being more on a holistic aspect of health. So basically, the healthy lifestyle choices are key to optimal health, and that's why I bridged over, getting people off of medications and things like that. A little bit of my backstory: I lost pretty much all of my loved ones due to the sad diet and then these drugs, and then that's why I kind of bridged over. That was my reason for bridging over to holistic health.
I mean, that's a typical story in the average American's household. I don't think there's anybody here in this country or even in the world who hasn't had people that they love succumb to health issues because of the standard American diet lifestyle. And it is a lifestyle,
Right.
Lifestyles they're things that can be changed. And a lot of people have a hard time believing that simply changing what they're putting in their mouths can affect their I'm sorry, there's one thing I want to do. I just realized on Facebook, I probably am not public. Sometimes I have to alter it after I go live. But a lot of people, when you tell them that you can change your state of health by what you are consuming, they don't want to believe you. Hold on. Edit. Yeah. It is broadcasting privately on my Facebook channel. Sorry, everybody.
It's okay. I'm kind of having connection, so
okay, we'll there we go. Right? Now we're live on Facebook. There we go. So I think it's commendable that you have actually did something about it. Not a lot of people do, and not even just to help yourself, but to help others. So it is unfortunate that we have to lose people, but it's through that darkness, we find our purpose, so to speak, and then others get to be affected positively by it. So it's unfortunate that you have to sacrifice something in order to make great change. So I commend you for taking on that path. So you coming from like the conventional medicine space, like as a nurse, like being immersed in that environment and just seeing people on a day-to-day basis come in with all their ailments and all of their health issues, and pretty much having to like the medical intervention is the allopathic medical intervention. You get your diagnosis and then you get your pharmaceuticals. At what point
Right.
did you realize that, like these meds aren't really working? Like, was there like a point, like a realization, or is it something you always knew? Oh, I think I lost you. Hello? Looks like there you go. All right. I lost you for a second.
Oh, okay. I can. Oh yeah, we had some connection issues. So there was kind of both. Grew, technically on a farm to where, we had gardens and things like that, but it was more of like family had to put meat on the table per se. So, I came from that meat and potato type diet, like growing up, just in. It
You're
wasn't until like 2008. At that point, I was still working as a nurse, and I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder that they call pulmonary sarcoidosis. And a lot of people are familiar with that because the comedian Bernie Mac had that, and then he lost his life behind it. So that's kind of when I had a shift of saying, like, okay, what they're teaching us and what they're prescribing and giving is just not the way. So that's 2008 is when I kind of shifted into, doing a little more things holistically, but at the same time, teeter tottering back and forth. But, it just never really set well with me. Working for several physicians and just seeing them, like you said, just, listen to the patient or not, they just in and out and then just giving a prescription. I felt kind of like their puppet, or, um, they're telling me what to tell the patient and it's killing them. So I just kind of had that disconnect, along the way. But again, up until the time that I lost many of my family members, like all of my grandparents, my parents are gone. I'm just kind of seeing that over and over, was like, this is not the way. Like, our bodies can heal ourselves. Like, we need to get back to, what our ancestors did before, using food as medicine, using herbs as medicine. So it kind of, was in and out just along my career. I decided to, just kind of shift back into the holistic realm that way.
okay. All right. I mean,
Yeah.
it makes a lot of sense. And it's like, in our community, we always like to talk about generational curses because unfortunately, you lost all of your generations prior to you, as it sounds like your parents, their parents, and it was all due to avoidable health, like lifestyle based issues. And it seems like the generational
Absolutely.
curse is not the diseases that are being passed down, but more so the recipes that are being passed down and the
Yeah.
stressors
Uh-huh.
that are being passed down. Yeah. And
Yeah.
like the dysfunctionality that's being passed down is really what the curse is. And it's not even a curse, so to speak. It's just generational habits,
Right.
right? And I feel like when we call it a curse, we victimize ourselves. Like there's nothing that we can do to lift it, And it's just like, it isn't a curse. It is just a way of life. It's a lifestyle that we choose
Right.
to live. And
Mhm.
we're making
Right.
these temporary choices day after day because it comes with instant gratification, not realizing that we are investing or divesting, for a better term, in our future, you know? And
Right.
I love that you said that this stops with me, and do you have children or do you plan to have children?
I do. I actually have 5 children and I have 8 grandchildren. So,
Oh,
though
wow.
I've lost everybody, and so I push, this lifestyle on them. Everybody is kind of their own person, but I try to tell my family that nutrition is a big thing. And so many people think of nutrition as, oh, this is just calories, and, this is just, we have to eat a certain way, and butter and things like that are okay. So they don't really fully understand that, nutrition is bigger than that. Like, what you consume is kind of what makes your body and your like you said, bringing those traditions along with us, we get comfortable with those things. The way that grandma made pies and cakes and things like that, like, and then we connect those things emotionally as well. And so we just kind of hone in on those things, and we just continue to eat that way, and we continue to teach our children to celebrate certain things and have certain things on the table. When, like you said, breaking the generational curses starts with nutrition, because that is what's, unfortunately taking our people out. I mean, and things are worse now. Like, there's additives and things that they have now that weren't in our foods and things like that before. So
Yeah, it's almost
we have to
like a
be
lot of
mindful.
the industries, these big industries, they feed each other, because it seems like the food industry is feeding the medical industry, and the medical industry is like, feeding the insurance industry. Like, all these
Yeah.
industries are benefiting from
Mm-hmm.
the economy or the economics of illness.
Right.
Like, when illness becomes like a commodity, so to speak, there is a vested interest in making people sick and keeping people sick, and not necessarily wanting people to die, but wanting people to just kind of live in that gray area for
Yeah,
the rest
you're
of their
right.
lives, while they maintain treatments, while they maintain the pharmaceutical drugs, while they maintain uh just the procedures and the surgeries and all these things that reap millions and billions of dollars from our
Right.
sick bodies. Now,
Mm-hmm.
you said that you have 5 children and 8 grandchildren.
Yeah.
Like, wow, I would never even think that, because you look so youthful,
Oh, thank you.
honestly.
Thank you.
um, does your lifestyle choices, do they like affect your family? Like, have you seen that trickle into like your choices? Have they influenced like your children? And do you, like, when your grandchildren are with you, are you kind of like, and I'm sure you are, like, introducing them to like your way of eating and your way of being and your thoughts and your beliefs? Like, grandma is a medical professional, a doctor. So do you, because we're talking about breaking generational curses,
Absolutely.
it's going to have to start with the matriarch, so to speak, because
Mm-hmm.
now you are the matriarch,
Right.
because your generations prior to you are no longer here. I love how, like, you are setting the example, and then you have children. Has your children kind of adopted your lifestyle, or are they just doing their own thing?
Um, Kind of, there's a mixture, and it's kind of hit and miss with my children. And again, I hold myself partly accountable, because I took on those same traditions that, my grandmother and my dad and their parents put in place for us, so I brought those same type of recipes and traditions in. So when I shifted, everybody thought I was crazy. People think that I'm crazy even now. And so it's a work in progress of trying to take things away. Like, I still have a 12-year-old at home. All of my other children are grown. So with my 12-year-old, I can still kind of mold her and, change habits with her. And so she has been adopting those things and taking it on. But I still struggle with my adult children, because they have children of their own. They're really still addicted to the sad diet. And, I can talk until I'm blue in the face, but they're like, well, you gave it to us. And I'm like, and I was wrong, and I didn't have the knowledge, or I did have the knowledge, but I was still addicted myself to still run back to these things, and using comfort, or, just knowing that my parents have passed and my grandparents have passed. and they brought these certain recipes because, like, you inherit these things, so you want to kind of keep that going. I had to make a decision in my life to say that, you know, kind of, they're eating these things and they're doing these things, and then even when they pass, your family members are showing up, for the services of many people that have went to funerals and things like that. You're still serving these same things that killed your family members after the funeral, so I just started seeing things differently. And I try to, tell my children, and they're not super bad. Like, they don't eat pork and things like that, but they're still, pretty much on the standard American diet. But as they see, like, me transition, and, I'm losing weight and I'm feeling healthy and I want to be there, for my grandchildren and see them, get through school and things like that, they're like, wait a minute, this has to be the way, mom's doing it. So my daughter, she's really good about it. So she kind of switches, but the boys, they're like, I still want to eat here and there, and I want to do whatever I want to do. But they also struggle with hypertension. Like, my twins, they're 25, and one of them has hypertension, and he's a truck driver, and it's super scary for him. Like, he almost stroked out a few times, and he's 25. So they know, but it's gonna take a little bit more work getting them where they need to be.
Wow, stroking out at 25 is just diabolical. That's insane.
Yeah.
But a lot of times we have to learn the hard way to actually
Right.
start pivoting and making those choices. It's unfortunate that he almost did and he still doesn't seek your guidance, because like, you're a resource, like, if there was a doctor in my family who had your approach, the holistic way of healing, that's definitely a resource I'd take full advantage of, because we have to pay for these services. And a lot of times I feel like medical insurance does not cover alternative healing, so you have to go the allopathic route in order to actually get any kind of proper medical treatment. And I have become my own doctor personally, but I do still have health insurance, and I take advantage of my health insurance in a sense where I'll go in if I have any symptoms, if I want to be checked up in certain ways. I like to get their diagnosis. I like to see what my blood levels are looking like. I like to see what my overall state of health is, so that I can come back home and talk to people like you and figure out what needs to be done, and then start my cleansing and taking certain herbs. And I think a lot of times, that's just a part of it, though, because there was a part in my journey where I put a lot of emphasis on only the food and only on, herbs, but I wasn't focusing on the fact that my stress levels were so high. And based on those levels of stress, it was almost like, if nothing else, the food was kind of help keeping me stabilized to not getting any worse. However, I was still producing all of this cortisol in my body and all of these things that was still causing a lot of stress in my heart, and was still keeping it to where my blood pressure was not, like, was still like slightly elevated and things of that sort. So like, a holistic approach is like, the food and the herbs are a part of it, but really when you start delving in to the more mystic side of our health, like really thinking, like making the connection that there are emotional things that we go through that get stored in certain organs in our bodies. Like, when we're people who are constantly angry, when we are people who are high in stress,
I think I
if we
lost you.
are filled with grief. Did you say you lost me?
Can you still?
Yeah, you were a little bit frozen. You're losing your connection. But there you are.
Okay. I was like,
Yep.
yeah, I lost you for a second. But yeah, no, I heard most of what you said, and you're doing it like the right thing. Like, so I think that there's a time and a place for allopathic medicine or Western medicine, however you view it. For like surgeries and accidental type things. But as far as health, that is the wrong route to go. Like, and what you're saying, like with the cortisol and things like that, That's one of my specialties actually, is I work with a lot of hormones. And what we don't even realize is that, like, when I say connections, it's not like even with just social media, but just certain things like your social life, or, in your job and things like that, that we think that, hey, I'm not stressed. I'm just flowing and I'm doing good. But from a cellular level, you could be, stressing your body out, and then your cortisol is up and down. And so then you have those type of things that develop. So it's all about, being able to align everything so that ultimately you're in good health. Like, so your mind, your body, your spirit, there's a physical, chemical, and mental aspect. And if one of those are off, everything's off.
So
And that's,
true.
they just don't do that. Yeah. They don't look at that. They're just like, oh, Lachey, you said you have a headache. So I think it's migraines. Go ahead and try this, and then come back next month. And if it doesn't work, we'll give you X, Y, and Z. But eventually you get so far from what the original thing was, what the root cause was, that you're treating all these other things that were generated from, these drugs that they try to push out. And 70% of all of those drugs is plant medicine. So why not just go straight to the source and just have
Right.
it in a tea, or have it in a tincture, or, so.
Yeah. So they have all these added ingredients, but it's always the active ingredient. It's a derivative of some sort of herb, which is a plant,
Yep.
basically.
Uh-huh.
So, like, for example, when you have pain issues, they're asking you to they'll tell, you can go and get an aspirin. But a lot of people don't even know that what aspirin basically is I think it's white willow bark.
Uh-huh. White willow bark, you can just, yep, you're
Yeah.
right.
So, like, instead of taking an aspirin, you can just go and brew you up a cup of white willow bark tea, because that's the
Mm-hmm.
active ingredient in the aspirin. And the aspirin has all these added filler ingredients, probably to preserve it in its tablet
Mm-hmm.
form. I don't know. But there are a bunch of unnecessary, harmful ingredients that,
Right.
if used repetitively and constantly. Like, I remember when I was going through the worst of my reproductive health issues, when I was uh
Mm-hmm.
dealing with like stage 4 endometriosis, and when I was like having really heavy painful periods, I was like pretty much living off of Midol, month after month after month after month after month after month. And I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure that helped attribute or contribute to my health issues over time, over the years, because your liver has to process all of those pharmaceuticals. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, once you start that healing, yeah, you're like starting to cleanse your gut and things are starting to repair and regenerate, but there's still so much damage done to the liver. Now,
Right.
that makes me think about systematic cleansing of the body. Do you believe in, you know, focusing on cleansing like, when you're starting to do one thing, you're healing one part of your body, you're healing it all. It all works together. However, should like, is there a way to systematically clean, like you're doing a gut cleanse, and then you can focus on doing like a liver flush, and then doing like a pancreas cleanse? Like, is that a thing, or is it just like live the lifestyle, be consistent, and it'll all work out naturally over time, like on being on nature's operating table, so to speak?
Right. Yeah. So I believe that living the lifestyle is the way. Again, the body can detox. We have our own mechanisms that can detox the body, because the human body is not designed to be sick. So when we're getting these symptoms, those are signs. So like if your car's running in the red line, your check engine light's going to come on, and it's going to tell you, something's going on mechanically. So I think living the lifestyle, you will eliminate a lot of the what am I trying to say? Things that you would need to, like the toxins and things like that, naturally. However, there are many things that we still encounter that we're not putting in our body, that's just coming through our skin. It's out in the environment and things like that. So I personally recommend, detoxing, every 3 to 6 months or so, just, to give your body just an overall flush, especially even if you're on the lifestyle, because again,
Mhm.
optimize your health, but you're still, there's so many toxins and factors out in the environment that we have no control over. So just being able to still eliminate those, because the body's going to hold on to some things, and not everything. Like if your liver and things like that are sluggish, it's going to, try to eliminate what it can, but, helping and taking some herbs and things like that to just optimize that and just kind of get it to flush out, I think is a good practice. Kind of how we spring clean our house, just, be mindful of doing a parasite cleanse, or just doing an overall detox. But when you're eating clean, you definitely won't have as many things that you would have, if you're still on the standard American diet and then being out in the environmental things. So I think that lifestyle is the biggest thing that you could do to optimize your health.
Right. Thank you. What do you think about moderation? People like to say everything in moderation, and I don't think moderation is a bad thing, depending on where you're coming from, right? Because you have to meet people where they're at.
Right.
And I do believe that transitioning into lifestyle habits is important, because trying to go cold turkey doesn't always work. It kind of starts to create a binge cycle, like a cleanse binge cycle. Yeah. First you're cleansing, then you're binging. First you're cleansing, because you're trying to seek
perfection. And I've seen that. I've done that.
So have I. When you're aiming for perfection, so to speak, trying to be like, okay, this is it. I'm about to, how many times I have ceremoniously had my last unhealthy meal so that I can start my new lifestyle indefinitely of being the most perfect eater in the world, and then I would do really good for a month or two. And then I would, just be a human and have a weak moment and fall into temptation and have something once, thinking I'm going to be able to maintain the discipline because of how good I've been doing over the past month or two. And then you end up in that binge cycle. All of a sudden, it's like taking a hit of crack. And then now you're back to eating drugs. You know what I mean?
I can attest to that. The same with me. And I know better, like we all probably know better, but like I was doing that, and I'm teaching others to be a different way. And even I was falling back, into that. That addiction, as we learned in the washout,
And that's why I have coined, didn't coin the term, but that's why I have made the theme of my platform Betterism, because I believe that people think that they have to, and based on my experience, be either 100% perfect or nothing at all. And I believe that if you have a desire to eat, if you want to be raw and you are trying to be perfect, but then you end up having this desire to eat cooked food, I don't think there's anything wrong with eating cooked food if you're eating a whole food plant-based meal. So that can still be delicious. It could still taste good. It doesn't have to be a guilty experience. You don't have to have a bunch of shame with eating some quinoa with some sweet potatoes and, some roasted veggies with a nice sauce that you made from scratch at your house without any added ingredients, no poisons or anything inside of it. And I believe being able to have that balance for your transition and allowing yourself to have that balance for your transition will take a lot of that mental heaviness away, where you're not in your head about what you're doing. Because I really only feel super guilty when I know I'm over here eating a Beyond Burger from freaking Burger King, or if I'm eating some French fries real quick, that's when I'm feeling, that's when I'm really in my head. But I don't have to avoid fries altogether. I can just go and get my own potatoes, season them how I like, bake them in my own oven. And then, at least I know they don't have flame retardants in them, like a McDonald's fry and things of that sort. And I do believe that it is important to just do better, make the best choice. Because if you are going to lose your mind trying to be perfect to the point where you're going to end up eating the worst thing, now you're putting toxins back into newly cleansed blood cells, which can actually be worse for you. So just focus on not eating processed. Focus on not putting toxins or poisons back in. You don't have, and eating cooked is not toxic and not poison. I don't care what a lot of these like really dogmatic, militant minded people in the community like to say, like when you're giving that message to people, you're literally creating people who are going to have eating disorders because they're trying to be way too perfect, and it's not practical because you can detox the body, but it still is going to take some time to detox the mind in the habit.
Yeah. And that all comes back to holistic health, like you said, that you have to do, take small steps, especially when it's a lifestyle change. You're not rushing. It took a long time to get your body to where it was, and to build up all those toxins. So depending on who you are and kind of the lifestyle that you've chose, it's going to take some time to get that out of your mind, get that out of your heart, get that out of your gut. It's going to take time, and I agree. I personally like cooked food. Like I have a desire to have like a soup or something warm, but again, I push the whole food plant-based diet on everybody that I come in contact with, because I believe that is really the way of life. Like we are not designed to have animal flesh and all of these other things, and our body is working too hard to eliminate them. So our bodies know what to do, but we still have to help it along. And even just like you said, taking those baby steps and just saying, hey, I'm not going to have McDonald's fries that have all of these additives, that it's cooked in beef fat. I read somewhere, and doing all these things. And you start to say, I'm going to prepare the meals for my family. I'm going to start, I seen Bobby do fruit up till 5. I'm going to try to, even if it's vegetables, I'm going to try to eat better and replace some meals. And then I'm going to declutter my pantry and throw a lot of the processed things away, which is kind of what I'm doing. I even told my 12-year-old, okay, she's about to be 12. So I said, you have up until this time to finish all these things, and they're just going to go in the garbage. I've just been kind of pulling things out to kind of get her mind ready and slowly transition. Because it takes baby steps. Because again, most of us, like I'm about to be 45 next month, and I've had bad choices my whole life. But now with adopting, mono eating and ultimately trying to be, high raw, or, having some cooked foods, like that's a big deal. Like jumping in the watermelon washout, I went from, I told a lot of people in the washout, eating a pizza the day that I seen Kev post his post, and then jumping right in, and it's okay for me because I had years on and years off. But for many people, like that's very scary and intimidating to think that, oh, I have to start eating better, and now I can't even cook my food, and now I can't, I can't juice my fruits, and now I can't, like there's too many things that they have to worry about, instead of just focusing on, let's just try to eat better and then start there.
Yes, it's a shock to the system to tell a person who has been legitimately genetically programmed or epigenetically programmed to live a certain way, have certain behaviors and habits. And this is how everyone in society lives. This is how everyone in the family lives. Everyone in the household lives. Everyone at work lives. You're going to see it on TV, on your favorite TV shows. You're going to be tempted at every corner of your life to do what is the most like destructive thing, because it's just like imprinted in our society. But now you know better, right? You're learning a new way. So now you're acclimating just to the idea of like, okay, I want to stop eating meat. That's a big deal for some people. They'll stop eating meat, but they'll keep eating everything else. But that is a big deal, because it's like now they're getting like a real integral part of their lifestyle habits out of the equation. And then they can start taking out the cheese, but they still get to eat everything else. And then they can start really focusing on the labels and what's inside of the packaged things that they still buy. But doing it incrementally really does allow it to be a lasting change over time. Transitioning is very important. Unless you are like terminally ill, unless you have cancer, unless that's when you have to be a bit more aggressive, and you can't really play those games and take those risks with your health, at least for like a certain amount of time, like 90 days or something of just like an intense protocol of mono eating and doing herbs and lymphatic drainage and things of that sort, like, because the human body really can regenerate in even that short span of a
Absolutely.
time, allowing it to do so. Because a lot of people have this misconception that you have to do all this extra stuff in order to get healthy, when in reality you just have to eliminate all of the things that's creating the problem. Like
Right.
fasting, you can just drink
Fasting.
water and start regenerating.
Fasting is the best way to jumpstart healing for sure. And then like you just spoke about like people that are terminally ill. Many of like, physicians say, in the allopathic community, oh, I'm going to give you 6 months. Well, to live. Well, I would challenge that and say, give me 30 days. Give me 30 days of, fasting and eating a certain way, and then, adding certain herbs in to heal you, because you can. So when you're allowing your body to rest and you're allowing your organs to rest and you're not continuing to put all that stuff in, then your cells are like, hey, now we can regenerate. Now we can shed off all these old things. Now we can eliminate. And people get really scared about that, because when they start that process, they're like, oh, I have a headache, I got a rash, I don't really know, and they're claiming these so-called diseases. Oh, it's flaring up my sciatic nerve and things like that. No, that's your body trying to fight for you and trying to go ahead and heal. So I challenge people to not be afraid of that. When you're jumping in, the body's going to show some other symptoms. Those are the flags that we want to see. We don't want to suppress those things, because that's what they're doing in that community. They're listening to the symptoms. Let me give you something so you don't feel the pain. Let me give you something so you don't have acne. Let me give you something. But, the acne is the toxins. It's trying to break out, and it's trying to, your body's fighting for you, but you have to start learning to fight for your body as well, because you only get one. We don't have extra ones hanging in the closet. We can jump and put on like a, astronaut. We can't just go and say, oh, this one hurts really bad, I'm gonna go put on a new one.
Yeah, I think people don't realize that we really are just like skin suits, and it's the spirit that is like occupying and driving these things. And it's the it's like the size of our spirit, or the quality of our spirit, that's going to determine the quality of our life, of our physical existence, because it's like
Absolutely.
everything is a projection. Everything going on inside of us is exactly what we're going to project outside of us. So it's like good to like, I feel like there is a belief barrier because of the medical community, the conventional medical community. There is this belief barrier where people genuinely don't believe that they have the ability to heal, that they have the ability to regenerate, because like we have been programmed with media. Like I remember being young watching like the Lifetime movie network and watching a sad movie of like a little girl like dying from leukemia, or it's just like all these stories of people who had the best life in the world, and then like like The Notebook, and like they have like these like beautiful lives, they meet the love of their lives, and then they fall ill, and then suddenly they're going to the hospital and everybody's praying for them, but they're like not really changing anything. Like all the hope is on chemotherapy treatments and radiation, and the doctor comes in serious tone with their charts, and they're telling you, oh no, it doesn't look good, unfortunately, and it's just like we've been so deeply ingrained subconsciously with this belief that the only way to heal is through medication, is through surgery, is through radiation, and we aren't taught by the medical community, who has the authority in this space, to say, what are you eating? What is in your what is in the food that you are eating? How mindful of you are about your movement? Do you get any exercise? What are the quality of your relationships at home? Are you happy? Are you dealing with a certain amount of stress? There are certain aspects that will really help to heal. But I feel like if the tone changed in the conventional medical community, a lot of people would walk out there believing There are people on my timeline right now who will live in my city who have cancer, and they are actively sharing their journey and how much pain they're in. They're taking pictures of themselves in the hospital, getting their chemotherapy treatments, and they're so young. And I'm just sitting here thinking, like, I am on their friends list. They see the content I put out there every day, scroll right past it because they just genuinely do not believe that eating living food and no longer consuming the meat, no longer consuming the dairy, no longer consuming the alcohol, no longer, like, all you have to do is start pivoting. Stop putting all of the weight of your health on your doctor. There's things that you have to go home and also start doing to meet them halfway. If you want to believe that chemo is for you, then I'll give you that, because a lot of times it really is our minds play a huge role in our healing. So if we believe something is going to take care of us, sometimes it can. You know, that's like what they call the placebo effect, so to speak. So you can like direct your cells to heal the body. You happy hormones. I've been learning about that reading Dr. Joe Dispenza's Superhuman, how becoming superhuman book. So, you know, the mind can also heal the body. The belief that we could heal can also heal ourselves, but people don't believe that they can heal themselves naturally. So it's like the programming of the medical community is also a barrier, like that belief barrier.
Absolutely. It's all in the mind. Like, that's not the homie. Like, if you believe it, like,
Sorry, you're breaking up.
Can you hear me?
A little bit. Hold on. I think you're coming back. Your video and your audio. Your video is blurry.
It's not giving me a. Let's see. Is it better?
A little bit. Yeah.
So strange. It's been doing that since we got on. I need to figure something out. Maybe start my device after we did.
It's okay. I mean, we've been on for about 40 minutes. If your connection comes back, we're going to cap it at about an hour anyways. But
okay, yeah.
So yeah, I think you're back.
Okay. Yeah. So what I was saying is, like, that's their, you know, their business. So people.
Uh-oh. Well, looks like she got kicked out a little bit, but I'll get her back on here when she comes through. But this has been an enlightening discussion so far. I will have her answer your question, King Arthur, about how long should we fast for optimal results. I don't think that is, honestly, I don't think that is a question that can be answered blanket, because it really depends on what you're fasting from, your level of toxicity, and ultimately it's the body that's going to determine the time frame. I think a lot of times when we think in the terms of how long, the mindset isn't in the long haul lifestyle wise. A lot of times when we embark on these journeys, we have to start looking at it like, listen, this is the life. This is how I'm in it for the long haul. I'm going to get results as long as I'm consistent.
Can you hear me okay?
Kinda. Oh, there she went again. I apologize, guys. Sometimes there's just those technical difficulties. There's not much I can do about it besides keep the show going. Thank you for tuning in, everyone who is watching. I am so grateful to be able to have these types of people on the platform. Looks like she's coming back in. All right. See how it is now.
Ah! Are we back?
Kind of. You're a little blurry, but I can hear you. You know, they're probably just playing with it because of the content of
that drives me nuts too.
You know, they
If
probably
you can
could be
hear me,
playing.
though, I was just gonna, before we get off, just they're like, get off
Yeah.
of here. I was just gonna, like, I'm in a little bit, like, personally, I watched my grandma do that.
Your voice is still
And
there.
choppy.
Go ahead, keep going.
Okay, so I was gonna say, like, some years ago, my grandmother was diagnosed with autoimmune disorder, and she worked at the hospital before her passing, and she lived with it for like 12 years. And not one time did I see her change her diet. Like, she still ate peanuts, she still drank Pepsi, she still ate pork, she still did all these things like that her parents did, and her and my grandfather ate like.
All right. Yeah, her connection is just
You have to start believing in yourself and to know, your body and the signs and the symptoms, and like you said, become your own doctor in a sense. Naturopathic doctors such as myself, we teach. So I view myself more of a teacher than I do a doctor. I want to teach you the right thing so that you can, make that part of your lifestyle so that you can continue to heal your body. Again, like I said, my grandma worked in nursing, and I don't even remember seeing her eat a fruit ever. My whole high school years, like, I've never seen her pick it up, and she struggled with pain and that so-called disease. I never seen her eat fruit or hardly even any vegetables, maybe like collard greens or something like that. But we just don't choose health. We get so comfortable in, I got to go refill my pain pills and stuff like that because you feel good instantly. You want to keep going that route, but that's definitely not the route. Like I said, it's a time and a place for it. If you're in an accident or something and you have that, then yeah, go for it. Like, get the help that could maybe save your life. But going there just for what we call health care is not the way.
Yeah, they're not good for preventative health. However, they're good for trauma-based health, that triage health. Like you said, you get in a car accident, you get shot, you are in critical condition. They're like, I like to consider them the body shop. Like you go there because what they have been taught for the 13 years of medical education is the systems of the body, the positioning of the body, the functions of those systems. And they know where the arteries are. They know the ebbs and the flow, so to speak, of the human design. So if there's something wrong with you, they know what to do in order to open up a airway. They know what to do in that sense right there on demand if you have a really good surgeon. However, you go in there and you tell them that you're doing a all fruit cleanse, a mono fruit cleanse. They're going to tell you that you are insane. They're going to advise against it. They're going to say that your blood sugar levels are going to spike and that you're lacking certain proteins and nutrients. And that's why you literally have all the parrots of people, the Agent Smiths everywhere, who just show up out of nowhere when people like us are just minding our business, trying to go against what we are conventionally taught that has not been working at all, trying to go and live and eat by the food pyramid and going to get medications every time there is a symptom in our body. Like, people have to realize that symptoms are the body's way of communicating with the spirit. So like, please help. This the body communicate with the spirit, saying, can you please pay attention to this pain right here on this side of the body, because what you put inside of me is causing stress in this area of my body.
It's bringing my
So
energy down. It's messing up my frequency. Yeah.
yeah, so
It
can we
definitely
please stop? And the best course of action would obviously be to eliminate those things that have been trapped inside of us. We all have digestive issues because the things that we have consumed is still sitting in our gut, fermenting away. And now the body is so intelligent that it's creating worms and parasites and all, the overgrowth of all these things. But that's literally the body's way of kind of cleaning up a lot of the things that
right.
we
And
cannot
your brain and your
properly
gut
do.
is and your gut is your second brain. So, you gotta, you wouldn't be able to function without this brain, the same way that you wouldn't with your gut. Like everything starts in the gut. And again, like in medical school and things like that, like what they're teaching us, like they learn these things off of cadavers and, and animals and things like this. Like they know the anatomy, like you said, they know how to go in and fix some things, but we're living energies. It's about, energy and frequency and vibrations, and they're studying on, cadavers and dead people. So they can only give us so much information. Yes, the human body, but a dead body is not going to function like a living body. And so they don't do, live living studies. And so it's going to fluctuate a bit different. And with labs, these labs, they generated these testing and these ranges years ago on disorders that are not even well known, especially not in the USA. And we still are on that same graft of your lab results were normal or abnormal to who? These research studies were done so long ago that those things are not even I think they did it on scurvy or lots of things that we don't even hardly see anymore, and they still use that same reference range. So eating and moving, sleeping, thinking, detoxing, that's going to be your best friends for health.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well said. I want to go back to something you said. You said compare it, and you said that they will say the studies come back, your blood work came back normal or abnormal. And you made a good point. Comparison to who? Because I feel like illness is so standard and so normal. Like illness is normalcy here. So that's the baseline of the health standard. So when a person comes back and they have these symptoms in their body and they know that what they're experiencing is uncomfortable, so they're going to the hospital because they are telling these people their symptoms. But the only way that they can measure you is through your blood work by maybe doing some scans and MRIs and all these technologies that they use in order to see through us or just whatever, right? So they're like,
right.
well, they look normal, the blood work came back normal. But I think they're comparing that normal to chronically ill people. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? So because the normal is sick. So when a person comes in, so you're basically telling me that, okay, telling me I'm normal is telling me I'm sick as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
Because I know there's something wrong with me. I came in here, I'm dealing with this pain. People come in with nerve issues and they can't really monitor nerve issues. There's no way of measuring them because that's all electrical. That's all electric based in a lot of ways. So there's things that they can't quantify when it comes to our health outside of us just telling them what our symptoms are.
Right.
And then they will literally tell people it's just anxiety if they can't diagnose it. Or they'll tell them, phantom pains. If they can't diagnose it, they've kind of write it off to it being a psychological thing versus it actually being a physical thing. And then you really have to be.
And I'll tell you why.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and I'll tell you why, Lachey, is because, even with me, going through nursing school and then going through, this, it has nothing to do with health, because on what they're teaching, their curriculum is that health is considered to be the absence of disease. So if they don't see it and it doesn't, present itself as a so-called dis-ease, then you're not sick. Like you said, they just discount that. But again, you could be physically in good health, but mentally you're not. And there's some other things that are hindering you. Like you said, nerve pain and things like that, your stressors, and they just don't look for those things because, like I said, again, they're like, health is the absence of disease. That's the way that community looks at it. I've worked in it for many years. And like you said, the labs are fine, you're fine. But that doesn't mean that, my shoulder's not hurting and I don't, it's not swelling and I'm having inflammation and things like that. So just going back to nutrition, I think adopting, a whole food plant-based diet is the way to keep everything lubricated and moving and you'll be in good health and the parasites can't thrive, in environments like that and things like that. So just
makes sense to me. And I just want to kind of like end it by going back to like, betterism. Betterism is just getting better at getting better. It's not about being perfect as you start your journey. And with that being said, if you're like transitioning into this lifestyle and you have a goal or an aspiration to be a fruitarian or a raw vegan or a fruit-based raw vegan, like where majority, like no matter what it is, I think that your number one goal before starting your journey is number one, to drop the labels. Like I would say focus more on making better health choices, become health conscious, focus on becoming healthy versus, so like keep those in mind. And I believe creating health is eliminating things that are overtly harmful to the body. So focus more on eliminating alcohol if you're drinking it regularly, eliminating smoking if that is a normal part of your routine, eliminating consuming animal products, especially if you have health issues, like eliminating meat, eliminating the dairy, eliminating the eggs, eliminating certain things. And you don't have to eliminate them all at once. Just get rid of the worst thing. But number one, eliminate processed food, period. So even if you're going to keep your meat and keep your dairy, make sure that if you're going to consume it, you're consuming it from a source that's not pumping it with a bunch of antibiotics, and they're not bleaching it and putting ammonia on it to change the colorings and all these things to make it look fresh, because all that transfers inside of you, for number one. And then pivot from eating boxed things that have all these added ingredients, all of these preservatives, all of these fillers, all these things that go inside of our bodies, and our bodies don't know what to do with it. So it pockets it into, little certain areas of our body. It turns into, it turns into tumors and cysts and all these things, especially if our eliminative organs aren't really filtering the way that they are designed to filter. If our liver isn't really functioning the way that it's supposed to, if our kidneys aren't functioning the way that it's supposed to, if our digestive systems are all clogged up and backed up, if our lungs are filled with mucus, if our, these are the ways that our body eliminates toxins. So the key thing is to stop putting toxicity inside. So just focus more on eating whole foods without added ingredients versus trying to focus on being 100% of a fruitarian, 100% of a raw vegan.
Absolutely. And eliminate the stressors and protect your peace, because when you change that way of thinking, your body is already going to start the healing process. So if even if it's family or friends or whoever, eliminate them and get them, away while you're trying to transition. I mean, if you are laying in a hospital bed, they're only going to visit you during visiting hours. So work on yourself and eliminate those stressors, which contribute to a lot of those health conditions as well.
Yep, I agree. Well said. Stress, I think, is the number one thing that we have the most control over, even more so than obviously you have control of what we put inside of us, but really controlling our environment, breathing, really like being very intentional and learning how to release a lot of trapped low vibration emotions that we have held on to for so long. Resentments, worry, fear, anxiety, and, just like really learning how to be mindful. Traumas, yes, releasing that, saying I don't want it anymore, letting it go, giving it to God, stepping away from it, forgiving people. You don't need them to apologize to you in order for you to forgive them, because you're not forgiving them for them. You're forgiving them for you.
Yeah, it's all here.
Mm-hmm. So beautiful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Even despite the technical difficulties, we still had majority a really good conversation that could be heard and seen. And I definitely would love to have you back on in the future. You're very insightful. I would like to, in the future, get more into, like, you had a diagnosis in 2008, getting more into whether or not, how that went. Like, if you still have that diagnosis, the things you did to help heal yourself, if that is what you accomplished. So just getting deeper into the processes of healing and what that entails, and how you have to be mentally and shifting in that way.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you so much, Lachey.
Of course. All right, guys. Thank you for joining the show. As always, I'm always going to be here. I don't have a set day every week. I go based on the availability of my guests. I like to be flexible. I like to be unconventional. I don't have to be like everybody. I don't have to be as structured. I just have to be consistent and show up. So next week, I do have a really cool guest. Nobody really knows him. He's not necessarily in our community. He is a friend of mine, and he had his own personal health journey by going to plant-based, because he ended up coming into some health issues. And he is really knowledgeable just from his own journey. So we'll be tapping in, I think, the 22nd for that one. So keep an eye out for that. I'll have the flyer drop for that. And everybody, always just get better at getting better. And again, A Game Herbal, thank you so much for sponsoring this episode. And I love you guys. Bye.